What's up? So, Tanzania will make English a compulsory subject in schools. According to the latest news, Tanzania has banned the use of Swahili in all its secondary schools, and this announcement has elicited a serious debate in Tanzania. And anytime you talk of Swahili and English in schools, Kenyans and Tanzanians start, kind of arguing. So the same debate has spilled over into Kenya, and people are having a debate on whether the Tanzanian government has made the right decisions. Let us discuss this. Let us have our own debate in the comment section below, because the background information is that Tanzanian schools have always been taught using Swahili from kindergarten to senior high school, and they use Swahili as a language of instruction, a medium of instruction, including teaching subjects like mathematics. That is easy. But now teaching subjects like physics and chemistry in Swahili, that's where most people do not understand. To discuss Kiswahili, or the Swahili language, we have to look at the history. This language came as a result of the Arabian traders coming into contact with the inhabitants of the east coast of Africa many centuries ago, about 200 AD. Started in Kismayu in Somalia all the way to Mozambique. As for English, it came to the East African coast in 1880s. It was brought by missionaries to Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. At that time, in 1880s, Kenya was a British protectorate, while Tanzania, or Tanganyika, was a German colony. Fast forward to 1920, and the Germans are kicked out of East Africa. So Tanzania becomes a British protectorate, while Kenya now becomes a British colony. And as a British colony, that means they were administering or controlling Kenya. So English was introduced as the official language in Kenya, official language for administration, and even the language of instruction in schools. So fast forward to 1960s, the two countries gain their independence, and Tanzania decides to adopt Swahili as official language, while Kenya retains the English as the official language. It becomes the language of instruction in school, while in Tanzania the language of instruction in school was Swahili. So this is the point where these two countries' approach to Swahili and English diverged or became different. Even though Kenya retained Swahili as a national language, a language to be spoken by every Kenyan, a language to connect all Kenyans, but it wasn't the official language. The immediate benefits was that Tanzania was seen as a beacon of hope by countries that were still agitating for independence, countries like South Africa and Mozambique. Tanzania was seen as a Pan-Africanist country because it was trying to do away with colonial legacies, while other countries like Kenya were still beholden to their colonial legacies. Years passed, but along the way, I think Tanzania started introducing English as a language of instruction in high schools. I don't know exactly when, but I think that's what they did. But fast forward to 2015, the then president of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete, passes a law to abolish English as a language of instruction in high school. So they revert back to Swahili. And now in 2022, the current president of Tanzania, Madam Samia Suluhu, has now passed another law to return English as the language of instruction in high schools. So going forward, they are going to have subjects like physics, chemistry, mathematics being taught in English and not Swahili. So this is the point where I think we have to discuss the benefits of keeping English as a language of instruction or retaining Swahili as a language of instructions in Tanzanian high schools. You have to understand that the argument between the Kenyans and Tanzanians is usually around who speaks the best Swahili between the two, and of course who speaks the best English. There is no doubt Tanzania speaks the best Swahili between the two, and there is a reason for this. You see, the University of Dar es Salaam has a department dedicated to improving the Swahili language. They keep improving the Swahili dictionary, introducing new words every year. So that's why Tanzania has one of the best Swahili, and also the fact that this language is widely spoken in Tanzania. It is the language or the medium of government transactions in Tanzania, meaning that all government documents are usually in this language, in Swahili. So it makes that country have the best Swahili between the two. But then the question, are there benefits using Swahili vis-a-vis English? Okay, so one of the benefits is that it gives the country or the people of that country a sense of nationhood, something that connects all of them together, Swahili. The other thing is that other countries regard you as Pan-Africanists. Of course, there have been debates in the African Union to adopt Swahili as a continental-wide language. So those are some of the benefits. But then the Kenyans argued that, are there benefits using Swahili above English? And the argument is that English is the language of business all over the world. They say that English opens more doors for you than Swahili. Supporters of the Swahili language or the Pan-Africanists also argue that countries like Russia, China, Japan or Korea use their local languages like the Mandarin in China to teach. Of course that's true, but also they forget one thing, is that in China, for example, when you join college, you have to do a compulsory foreign language. You can pick English or French or German, but you have to do it. So as you're doing your technical course or whichever degree you're doing in China, you have to be doing a foreign language. Now that explains why we have a lot of Chinese professionals all over the world. But that's not the point. The point here is, does English give you that benefit as Kenyans are claiming? For example, there are these claims that a lot of Kenyans who went to college and finished and never got jobs, they are doing freelance work as online academic writers. A lot of them are doing online work as academic writers, transcribers and interpreters. So there are statistics showing that more than 200,000 Kenyans are working in these online writing jobs. Then we have the gig economies or the online gig websites like Fiverr or Upwork, where you find jobs as an accountant, you can be an administrator, you can be a freelance writer, you can be anything on these gig online platforms like Fiverr and Upwork. You can be a graphics designer, you can be a software developer, a website designer. And you find that English speakers from this side of the world get these jobs. And I'm not saying this website do not exist in French, but I doubt whether they exist in Swahili. Another benefit for English speakers are these jobs that do not require professional training, jobs that people find in Middle East. So we have a lot of security guards, a lot of guys working in the hotel industry, guys working as bus drivers in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar. And the requirement is that you have to be an English speaker. I'm not saying there are no Tanzanians in those countries. And I'm not saying there are no Tanzanians who speak English, but per capita or per population, you find more Kenyans, more Ugandans, and more Nigerians or Ghanaians doing those jobs than Tanzanians in Dubai or Saudi Arabia. And you find a lot of same people working on cargo ship or cruise ship. There's a lot of Kenyans and a lot of Ugandans who work on those cruise ships because they speak English. And then there's the young Kenyans who apply to go and join US Army or the British Army because they speak English. Look guys, by now you should have written your contribution in the comment section below, because I promise I'm going to read all your thoughts. But I can go on and on. The point I'm trying to drive here, I think, is the same point the current Tanzanian president, Madam Suluhu, and her government have identified to find that English will be more beneficial. There's pride in using Swahili, but English will bring more benefit to the Tanzanians. And I hope that after high school, they're going to introduce the same in the primary school, from kindergarten to high school. Let's have English as the language of instruction, because in the long run, it's going to be beneficial for this country.